And a Fox News alert, Iran is blasting open an atomic-sized loophole and expanding its nuclear program, despite that deal they made that actually eased sanctions on them. Welcome to a brand new hour inside America's Newsroom. I'm Jamie Colby, and I'm in for Martha McCallum today.
I'm Greg Jarrett in for Bill. Iran announcing a new generation of new equipment to enrich this uranium while getting around a deal with the Obama administration to limit expansion of its nuclear program.
And Iran is claiming that the equipment is just in the testing stage and not yet operational, but it does raise serious questions about the nuclear deal that eases sanctions and what kind of response we're going to see from the White House. Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry is taking a look at that for us live in Washington. Ed, good morning. Great to have you here. Boy, I don't know if we should be surprised or not, but it does seem to be a setback for the administration, who had touted this deal as tremendous progress just last month.
Good morning. That's right. Good morning, Jamie. You're right that this is going to put new pressure on the president, Secretary of State John Kerry, who negotiated this nuclear deal with Iran. Basically, you've got Iran's nuclear chief today boasting that they're building a whole new generation of centrifuges for uranium enrichment. Now, you have to remember the nuclear deal does allow them to develop new centrifuges, but for 6 months they're not supposed to bring these into operation. And the Obama administration has pushed back on previous concerns that maybe Iran was wiggling out of the deal by saying that these kinds of comments are just playing to a domestic audience. There's been a lot of pressure in Iran from the hardliners saying, why are you talking to the U.S. and their allies? And the suggestion from the administration has been they're just going to, put out this kind of rhetoric, but they're going to stick to the actual nuclear deal and make clear that they're not developing nuclear weapons. But you can bet there's a lot of critics here in the U.S. and in Israel who are going to raise new questions about whether this deal is worth anything at all, James.
Right, an already tense relationship we have with Israel right now, the White House and Netanyahu. And the president has faced some opposition also from Democrats on this deal.
You know, Jimmy, you're right. That's the key here, is that it's not just the president's traditional Republican critics on Capitol Hill who have been pushing him to institute new sanctions against Iran. You have people like Bob Menendez, a Democrat from New Jersey. He's a very powerful chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. He's joined other top Democrats like Chuck Schumer in saying, okay, continue to talk to Iran, see if this deal works, but in the meantime, push some new sanctions, have them ready to go, pass that on Capitol Hill. So if Iran backs out of this, you'll be ready with these tough new sanctions. The president, you'll remember, at his news conference before he went to Hawaii, insisted these sanctions are not needed. Take a listen.
I think the politics of trying to look tough on Iran are often good when you're running for office or if you're in office. But as President of the United States right now, who's been responsible over the last 4 years with the help of Congress in putting together a comprehensive sanctions regime that was specifically designed to put pressure on them and bring them to the table to negotiate.
So that's the president's case, but the bottom line is an increasing number of critics, again, not just on the Republican side, but in his own party, are suggesting, especially with these new comments from Tehran, that maybe this deal is not going to stick to.
Yeah, sanctions on one side that we know worked, a deal where they may be pushing the envelope a little bit. Keep an eye on it for us. We don't know what their plans are. Thanks so much.
News from the Middle East as Iran's nuclear chief says the country is building a whole new generation of centrifuges for uranium enrichment. The move suggesting that Iran is going forward with its nuclear program despite this highly touted deal reached just last month with the U.S. and other world powers. Ambassador, immediately in the wake of that deal being struck, we had Iranians coming out and saying, hey, it preserves our right to continue enriching. At the same time, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry saying nothing in this deal gives them the right to continue enriching. But today sounds like they very much want to telegraph the message to their own people and to the world that they're moving forward.
Look, the deal itself says in very clear language that the end state that the parties anticipate is that Iran will continue to engage in uranium enrichment. The best that the State Department can say is, oh, but they will forswear enriching to weapons grade or continuing a nuclear weapons program. But it's one reason why this is such a wretched deal. The Iranians, I think, emerged very clearly in the superior position. They are continuing their nuclear program. They're continuing weaponization. They're continuing their ballistic missile program. The only concessions they made were superficial and easily reversible. And nonetheless, they achieved one of their critical objectives, which is getting a weakening of the international sanctions regime.
I wonder if you think that this is going to play out at all like the situation did with Syria and with Capitol Hill being a check on the president's plans, at least as we thought and we understood that they were being hinted at, possible action in Syria beyond what a lot of people were comfortable with. And of course, there was pushback bipartisan on the Hill. Now, today we have Senator Robert Menendez, a Democrat, of course, out of New Jersey, speaking out on this, saying, you know, the Iranians are showing their true intentions here. He is one of those who has signed on to the bipartisan deal for tougher sanctions in Iran, something that we understand behind the scenes the White House lobbied these Democrats not to go public with, not to get involved with. How tough will it be for the White House to continue its diplomatic position on Iran when it's got the pushback now from Capitol Hill?
Well, the administration has already threatened to veto the sanctions bill that Senator Menendez and others on a bipartisan basis have been advocating. So they don't want this to come up at all. Obviously, they'd prefer not to face what appears to be congressional opposition. But having made the threat to veto, they are now absolutely bound to go ahead with it. I think the overall signal to Iran is they've got somebody in the White House they'd like to deal with quickly. They think they've already got a pretty good deal. I think if I were in Iran, I'd be saying, let's pick up the pace here. Let's move even further. The Speaker of the Iranian Parliament said today he wants individual negotiations with the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, meaning us, because they think they can get a better deal from the White House than they can, hard as it is to believe, from the French, the Germans, and the British.
And we'll let the viewers decide how they want to interpret that particular message. Ambassador, thank you so much. Good to see you.